Welcome to What is a deck? This is the first in a series of short videos about fundraising for startups and putting together an investment deck. My name is Lisa Sue. I'm a startup funding strategist in Los Angeles. I'm a longtime board member at Women Founders Network, and I've run the coaching program for the last 5 years. I'm also a mentor at several of our accelerator programs here in Los Angeles, including Techstars, the Precelerator. I prep companies to present their decks at conferences like Salesforce's Dream Pitch Conference. And if I look familiar, you may have seen me featured in the Huffington Post, Business Rockstars, Startup Nation, or Women 2.0, or other publications where I talk about tech startups, fundraising, and fundraising for women founders. This is the first in a series of short videos I'm putting together about fundraising and putting together a first investor deck. It's definitely not an exhaustive overview of fundraising or startups, but I think it'll be a helpful overview of and demystification of what they are, and a chance for me to answer some questions and clarify some issues that come up a lot when I talk to founders and entrepreneurs. In particular, this series should be helpful for entrepreneurs who are looking to grow their business and are exploring options for how to raise the necessary capital. Entrepreneurs who have been trying to raise capital who may have hit some roadblocks and are looking for greater understanding of the process of raising capital. And also people who may have an idea for a business and are trying to get a sense of what may lie ahead if they take the plunge. These videos will be short, probably between 8 to 10 minutes or so, about topics that I get asked about regularly. They will range from topics that go from basic overviews to deeper, more specific points for those of you who are further along the funding journey. And they are completely modular. You do not have to watch all of them at all to get what you need. You're all at different stages with different businesses, so not everything I talk about in these videos is going to pertain to each and every one of you. So if you start watching a video and go, yeah, that doesn't seem like me or my business, don't overthink it. It's probably not you, at least not right now. So please feel free to move on to another video. Now, this is the first in a series of a short 3-part series on investor deck basics. This first video answers the question of what is a deck and is a short overview of investor decks. It'll be followed by part 2 next week, which is about what does a deck look like, where we'll talk about the format and structure of a deck. And finally, we'll wrap up this initial series with what do investors really want to see in a deck? What are the questions that you really need to answer? Now, with that short intro out of the way, let's get started with the first question I wanted to answer, which is something that did actually come up in my office this week, which is what is a deck? Now, this is a question that many of us take for granted, but I've gotten this question actually a few times over the last few weeks. So I thought it would be a good time to revisit this. So what is a deck anyway? What does an investor mean when they say, send me your deck? And why do we keep talking about them so much? The quote unquote deck that you hear about so often in fundraising is a presentation deck. So a PowerPoint or keynote of usually 10 to 12 slides or so, which give an overview of your business, who you are, what do you do, what are the important points of how your business works, and why should it be appealing for an investor. Decks are short summaries of the main points that you would hit in a business plan, but really condensed in these 10 to 12 slides. Both because we've all lost some attention span in the last couple of decades, but also because an active investor may be hearing from dozens of companies in a week and just doesn't have time to sift through hundreds and hundreds of pages of business plans. Now, an important point. This may sound an awful lot like the marketing deck that you use to send out to customers and partners. Let me be clear about this. Investor decks are not the same as your marketing deck. And lots of folks get into trouble because they think adding a couple of slides to their marketing deck is sufficient. Or sometimes they just flat out use their marketing deck. But marketing decks are put together to show a potential customer or maybe a partner why they should buy your product or service. An investor deck is designed to show a potential investor why they should invest in your business, which is not the same thing. One is about why it would be great to buy your product or service. The other is about why it would be great to invest in, or in other words, buy a piece of your company. One is the selling of the product or service. The other is selling your company and why it could make the investor a lot of money. They overlap, but are not the same. How to do that? Investor decks virtually always follow the same structure, which is problem, solution, product. You've probably seen it around. It's the structure that investors expect because it answers the initial key questions that investors ask when they're first considering a company. Don't worry, we'll get into the structure and format in the next video. The important part to take away is that if you are thinking of raising money from outside investors, you need to start thinking about putting together an investor deck because investors will ask you for one. And then if you have a meeting with an investor, they'll ask you to talk through the deck or give the presentation along with the deck. Now, this is definitely a short overview of what an investor deck is. I'll be putting together I'll be getting further into what goes into a deck, what it looks like, and the main questions you're trying to answer in the next videos. But if you have questions, I love to chat. So please feel free to send me an email or drop by my virtual office hours, which you can find on my website, which is winningpitch.net. Until then, friends, I'm looking forward to talking to you next week.